are back again, AM 1410, WRMN in Alden. It's the 9th of May, 2012, and it's Wednesday, which means it's time for the Laura Dion-Jones Show. Out there in listening audience land, do you want to lose weight fast, get rich quick? Do you want to look young forever, just like Laura Dion-Jones? Then listen every Wednesday, 3 o'clock until 4 o'clock, right here. With that being said, I'd like to say hello. Good afternoon. How you doing, Laura?
I'm Diva-larious today.
Diva-larious.
Is that a good one?
That's a good one.
Thank you.
You know, I'm using all of these.
Oh, well, put them in the hat.
They're all in the hat.
Diva-larious. And only 77-ish more days till the Olympics.
Yay!
You know, I have the countdown going.
That's good.
And I have a few interesting facts I want to dive into right now before we get going here. Did you all hear that AAA came out with figures yesterday that state every state in the U.S. now restricts the number of teen passengers that teen drivers may have in their car?
No, really?
Yeah. And teen passengers of teen drivers proved to be a deadly distraction.
I can imagine.
And here's the stats. Just one young passenger under 21 raises the likelihood of a teen driver's fatal accident to 44%. 3 or more kids as passengers of a teen driver raise the risk to more than 339%.
Wow.
And on the other side of the coin, an older passenger over 35, such as ourselves, reduces the likelihood of a teen driver's risk of deadly accident by 62%. I think these are incredible statistics. If I had a teen, I'd want to know them.
Sure.
Wouldn't you?
I do want to know them.
And here's another one, and this pertains to what I do. Don't be giving me that wrinkled look.
Oh, sorry.
The CDC has come out with a new prediction that America's obesity epidemic is about to get a lot worse.
Let's see. That's why I give you the wrinkled look, because I know it's not good news.
Nearly 36% of adults today are obese, which is no surprise. The obesity rate will increase by 42% by the year 2030. I wonder if I'll still be around by then. How many years is that from now?
Oh, it's 18. It's nothing. You
Boy, are you a math whiz.
Well, it's just...
Height and weight calculate that a person who is 5 feet 9 and weighs 203 pounds or more is considered obese. Experts met yesterday in D.C. to try to figure out what to do about our country's ever-expanding waistlines and obesity epidemic. And hey, y'all, you gotta wanna, and most people don't wanna. And from my experience with doing my Commit to Get Fit program and Elgin's Biggest Loser, a lot of people want someone else to do it for them, and they don't want to give up their white starch and sugar crap and get their butts up off the sofa and move. Sorry, experts, you ain't ever going to conquer this obesity epidemic unless you open your eyes to the white starch and sugar addiction and that laziness epidemic that now plagues us. And I'm just looking around the room, Mikey. I ain't looking at you.
I know.
Because you're a walker now. So
And your buttons are good now. So.
Yeah, and your buttons on your shirt. Yeah,
really
that
good.
shirt was tight several shows ago.
was.
Anyway, look at your and here's another thing that really beefs me. And I know I hope people don't get mad at me for this, but look at your medical professionals, from the receptionists at the hospital, the workers in the cafeteria, to the doctors themselves, who are grossly overweight and say, do as I say, not as I do. Heaven forbid we should follow their lead. I like a quote by William Penn, who was a founder of Pennsylvania, that William Penn. No man is fit to command another that cannot command himself.
Is that your quote of the week?
No.
Oh, okay.
I got a couple.
Although the baseball's greatest trainer is a chubby guy for the White Sox, so
Well,
he's
you
great,
know
but
what?
he just doesn't
If
do
he's
it.
a trainer, he should be running around them, lapping
but-
that field with those boys, too. I'm
Seems like
sorry.
it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Herman.
And now we got to switch gears here for a sec, so hold those thoughts, kids, because we've got a very special guest coming in visiting us today on the Laura Dion-Jones Show. His name is Bob Miller, and he's a legendary Major League Baseball player, famed Chicago philanthropist, and an unbelievable entrepreneur. Bob has a ton of interesting stories to tell us about his time in the major leagues and also how he got to be such a successful businessman. Stick around for some of Bob's entrepreneurial business tips. If we can coax them out of him, they could help you as they've helped him too. And if you pick up one business tip that will help you get through this tough economy, so much the better for you. So be sure to stay tuned, because in the studio with us today are Mike Hunziker, one of my favorite guy pals ever, and my loyal sidekick, trusty board man, Jeff Myers, my remarkable co-host, who is like the something of encyclopedias of sports.
Major leaguer with
This
us.
is his show, is it not?
Yes, it is.
You've given it over to him
Excuse
today.
me, yes, it is. And we're going to be talking more stuff than just baseball.
That's why we had him in the green room.
Yeah, you guys.
I knew it.
And did he sign your jersey?
No, we might do it on camera.
That's good.
That's a good concept.
And if our very favorite YouTube camera girl, Valerie the Swan, is with us again. So please stick around because, as usual, we've got a whole lot of fun and interesting talking lined up for you today. You're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show on WRMN, 1410 AM. And meanwhile, back at the WRMN Ranch, today's show is brought to you again by...
We will call Dr. Claire Elias. Dr. Claire Elias, please report to the radio phone, will you? She, of course, located 2001 Larkin Avenue. She is just a wonderful chiropractic care person, as we always turn our camera angle left there, my dear, to
my posture.
To your posture, the posture of diva. Divalicious posture, which is now a copyrighted term, is it not?
Yes.
But right there, a couple years ago, Dr. Claire, with that tall, statuesque look she has, she said, I think I can help you because I must. And that's when it all began, did it not, loosely
It
with
sure
that?
did.
And
It
now,
sure did.
24 months later, you see the results. 847-888-9486. Dr. Claire Elias, you know, you still could be in the majors if you'd talk with Dr. Claire.
And we'd also like to thank snobhounds.com, a canine clothing company. Think Nike meets Donna Karen, but for canines. And we'd also like to thank Casey Tool, an automotive specialty tool company, available through your Snap-on mobile tool distributor. And a very special thank you to Casey again for making this show and all of our shows possible. And it's time for Laura's Motivational Minute. Ready?
Hey, ready?
All right.
Ready?
Who said people only see what they are prepared to see?
Can our guest participate in this as well?
I think he saw my notes.
Oh, did you?
Did you?
We'll flash him over. Oh, no, we didn't. So we'll say, because Bob's here, Casey Single.
Yeah,
Oh, I should have picked a baseball.
Yeah, because
darn it.
Casey said a million things, really.
Nah, but we're going to get into some Casey-isms and
I hope.
Yogi-isms, too.
I hope.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Oh, well, that was the high school they went to in room 222, wasn't it? So that's kind of a sports related thing.
And that is the quote that kicks off this week's motivational article on elgin.bocajump.com. Not just another pretty face. It's a story about a woman who lost a lot of weight, and then she wanted to have a body lift surgery and one thing and another. And I think that, well, let me see here. Hang on. As an occasional reader of advice columns, I believe the wisdom they dispense is usually best when they stick to the relationship arena. Naturally, with my background, I'm always disappointed with their responses when the questions deal with motivation, weight loss, fitness, fashion, and self-esteem, as you can imagine. Mm-hmm. A recent column I read told about a woman who had a gastric bypass a few years ago, lost 200 pounds. She now looks like everyone else, except she feels she has a bit too much extra skin that makes her look like she still has a little more weight to lose. Anyway, eventually she would like to have surgery to remove the excess skin. After I lost 130 pounds and maintained it for at least a year, I had a body lift surgery, so I can well relate. That's why this letter particularly struck me. I now have a 4-pack tummy, a lovely new belly button, and my former National Geographic boobs are now those of a 30-year-old. I'm just saying, not bad for a bloomin' boomer babe now. Come on. And let me just say this. Go read this wonderful motivational article at
I'm going to the library to go to the National Geographic.
You know what that is.
Yeah, I know.
You'll be glad you read this article. Different things motivate different people in different ways at different times. I believe a person, no matter how big or small, fat or tall, should never set foot outside of their house without looking their absolute best. Especially so if you're a bit larger than the rest. And I feel we fuller-figured gals and guys need every advantage we can get. Please forgive the inborn motivational diet advice maven in me also, but you might want to take up walking if you're not already doing some form of daily cardio. Walking will get rid of all that visceral fat that lurks around your middle. Remember, there are no excuses for staying obese or overweight in any way. And you cannot fool the diva here, especially if you have worked with me. I know your secrets, I know your hot buttons, and I know exactly why y'all weigh what you weigh. And
We know Mike's hot buttons because they're much talked about.
Where there's a will, you better find a way to do cardio every day, or else. He's not popping them off the shirts.
No, he's very lean.
Yes, leaner. Go to this week's motivational article on elgin.bocajump.com. It's under Not Just Another Pretty Face. Please read it for improved health and fitness bennies. And on that note, you're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show. We're live on the air with Bob Miller, legendary Major League Baseball player, famed Chicago philanthropist, and entrepreneur, talking about all sorts of stuff today. He is our very special guest. It is said of Bob Miller that wherever he turns up, it's a safe bet someone will be better for it. Well, Bob's here with us today, and we're going to be a lot better for it ourselves. For those of you who don't know him, Bob Miller, he was a high school pitching phenom from Morton High School in Berwyn. After his high school record was 33-6 with 3 no-hitters. Boy, they could use you today on the side.
Although we have a no-hitter every 10 days now.
Then he made history with his major league career, which started at age 17 as a Detroit Tiger in 1953, making him the youngest player in Major League Baseball at that time. He remains the youngest pitcher to have ever struck out the New York Yankees. He's a member of Chicago Sports Hall of Fame and many other things, but besides that, he's an incredible entrepreneur, and he'll be hopefully giving us some tips about all kinds of stuff. So let's give a warm LDJ welcome to Bob Miller. Yay.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Bob, it's so nice to have you on the Laura Dion-Jones Show today. I got to ask you something. Tell us how it all got started way back in 1953.
Amazingly, I was taking competitive examinations, and I was able to get a 4-year scholarship to Yale University. I was taking these exams in Princeton, New Jersey, and I was already enrolled at the John C. Calhoun College at Yale, and all of a sudden, I was offered $65,000 to, go right to the major leagues.
And this was in 53?
1953, yes.
So $65,000 and $53 in $1953 is, what do you think?
$500,000 probably now.
$500,000 now?
I don't know.
It's enough to curl your eyelashes, though, isn't it? So, okay, go ahead.
And I made a promise to my mom and dad, that I would go to school, and because Yale was on a semester basis, they started school around Labor Day. And so I had to find a school that was on a quarter basis, and it was Northwestern. And they started school, ironically, the day after the Major League season ended every year.
What luck for you.
Yeah, and so I went to Northwestern, and and amazingly, I had already some credit hours that I had already accrued when I was in high school. I had taken, in mathematics, I took spherical trigonometry, basic calculus, and advanced algebra.
Jeez Louise.
And I started out, where I had a little bit of an advantage in certain respects. And anyway, I got my my degree from Northwestern, my undergraduate, and then I got 2 MBAs, one in finance and one in marketing.
Wow.
That's great.
And what better 2 degrees to have for business than finance and marketing? Unbelievable. I want to ask you something. How'd you get so good at baseball? At 17. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You were a kid.
Well, I played with my brothers, and the one that spent most of the time with me was 5 years older than I was, so I was constantly playing with his friends 5 years older than I was. So gave me, you had to learn quick.
Yeah, you sure did, huh? To keep from getting smoked. Tell me about the dedication and the discipline that it took at such a young age to really be that committed to the sport.
I had made a total unequivocal commitment, and it was something that I wanted to do, and I gave it 100%.
Wow. That's unbelievable. Give us, what happened next? So you were the youngest pitcher in history to ever beat the New York Yankees. Tell us who were the world champs in 1953. And you threw a 2-hit shutout for 5 innings when you were only 11 days past your 18th birthday.
Yeah.
Tell us some stuff about the Yankees.
I
Tough. And I had a good defense.
I have.
The first batter he faced was Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember that moment?
Yes.
You remember that moment? Were you your palms sweaty or anything like that?
Couldn't breathe.
Really?
The one thing that was funny, the very first game that I pitched in Scheid Park, I'll never forget. It was the first day that I reported to the Tigers, and manager Freddie Hutchinson told me, he said, Bobby, go down to the bullpen. In about the 8th inning, I want you to loosen up with our bullpen coach, Bob Swift. Let him see what you can do. 8th inning came, and I was loosening up with Bob Swift, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and Swift answered the phone, and he said, kid, you're in this ball game. Holy moly, the next 2 pitches I threw sailed 5 feet over the catcher's head and hit a huge corrugated door where they drove the concession trucks in, and it resounded all over the ballpark.
Oh, sure. I'm sure it sounded even louder in your ears.
And the first guy I had to face was Gus Zernial, and then Pete Suter and Joe Astroth, and retired the side in order, and got in the clubhouse, and quite frankly, despite the loss, I couldn't help but get on the phone and gave my mom and dad a call, and I said, hey, pitching in the big leagues isn't too tough after all.
That's great.
That is great. You know something? I have a picture here with me. My husband's grandfather was a camera freak, and they had a home up in Burlington, Wisconsin, and there's a monastery up there. And when the Yankees were up there playing the Brewers, I forgot what year it was, all the Catholic Yankees went to Mass. Do you recognize anybody in this picture?
It's probably they played the Braves, weren't they, in the 50s in the World Series? It's probably isn't that time frame.
Moose Scourin, Yogi Berra.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking on this list to see if you were in this picture, you know? Who else?
Hank Bauer, good buddy, yeah.
Tony Kubek.
Yeah.
Gil McDonald.
It's the 57 Yanks, I believe.
Is that it?
Yeah, because it's a World Series time frame of 57.
Isn't this a cool picture?
Yeah, and if I can, later on, I see Yogi right there. I played with Yogi, in 62, and there's a lot of Yogi-isms that I can pass on that are a little funny.
And after Mantle, Yogi's the second man you faced in that Yankee game.
Yeah.
Listen, lay a Yogi-ism on us right now.
Yogi said, there are 2 ways to catch a knuckleball, and neither one works.
Oh, that's cute.
Or he made another comment. He says, Koufax became great once he got his curveball straightened out.
That's cute.
That's good.
Let me ask you something. I know in 57 you pitched for the Mazatlan in the Mexican National League. What made you go down there so you could play?
I was in the service during the baseball season, and I didn't get out of the service until like October 1, so there was no chance for me to report to the major leagues. So the Detroit Tigers arranged for me to play in the Mexican League in winter ball.
Wow.
So kind of get you back in the swing and stuff and everything?
And you told Diva in the green room that you're actually injured in 56, which curtailed your major league career.
Yeah. I in spring training, I got hit by a pitch ball, and Carmelio Pascual from Washington, and broke my wrist, and I had 2 major surgeries. And of course, back in 56, you didn't have the microscopic surgeons that you have today for athletic injuries.
And so I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but that was one of the things that eventually ended your baseball career.
Yes,
was the fact that you couldn't throw as hard or as fast as you used to.
Yeah.
And when did that happen? How old were you?
23.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still kept playing until when?
Until, 19?
Well, you got a 6-year break, major leagues, 56 Tigers, now until the 62 Mets to appear again in the big show.
Yeah.
So you recovered eventually.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is that I was no longer the nucleus of a ball club, and I had to make the ball club, and it then became to my advantage, and thank God that I had pursued my college career, and I was able to retire at my own volition.
That's great.
Rather than, have them tear my uniform off.
Well, yeah,
Sure.
I think of some of them that they should tear the uniform off. I just checked the internet before we came in here, and did you see that they're gonna, what's his name? Harrelson?
Hawk, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to get rid of him. And is he the guy who goes, can of corn?
Put it on the board, yes.
He's got mercy.
He'll be there as long as Reinsdorf's alive.
You think so?
Oh, gosh,
Come on,
yeah.
look at go check that out on WGN or something.
No, Hawk would have to quit on his own. Reinsdorf won't let him. He's got a long-term contract. He's solid.
Can of corn?
Well, let me just say that if that's your favorite team, though, those announcers, he's well loved by his White Sox fans. There's less White Sox fans than Cubs, but he's well liked, and he's fine. He's fine. Don't forget, we had years of Ron Santo. If you weren't a fan, you couldn't understand him on the air. So let's be honest.
He gone, honey. He gone.
Hawk Harrelson's the right man, right place, right time, right now.
As long as Reinsdorf and Williams...
on my last nerve, that
That's
one.
good.
Oh, gosh, you think?
He should. You're a Cubs fan, aren't you?
Did you ever listen to Harry Carey?
Yeah.
Well, Harry was 10 times louder. You realize that, don't you?
It's not the loudness. It's just, I don't know.
You're not a White Sox fan. If it irritates you,
I'm a White Sox fan.
That's a wonderful call if you're a Sox fan. It's the same thing with the Cubs. I mean, if you Lancaster and those guys are okay if you're a White Sox fan, but if they're your team, they're yours. And he's not as good as Harry was with the Sox, but
That's right.
He's very useful.
Okay, I don't know.
He's been there
There's some flap on the
81.
internet about it. So anyway.
Yeah, he's not always well liked on the internet, but gosh, what is?
No, I think this was some WGN. Anyway, let's get back to our esteemed guest here, because he also, in 1960, you also pitched for Team Venezuela to the Caribbean Little World Series Championship. I mean, what haven't you done besides go to the moon?
No, that was fun. And I ended up managing and pitching for Team Venezuela.
Wow.
And our manager, Hernandez, got sick, and all of a sudden they asked me to take over. And I drafted Joe Aldebelli, and I drafted Jimmy Fry, and...
Later managers, one for the Cubs. Jim Fry was the Cub manager for 89, some great teams for the Cubs.
And Aldebelli managed the Cubs.
Yeah, and Giants.
And ended up drafting Bob Gibson.
Wow.
And, of course, that was the big deal, and when we got to the playoffs, I ended up pitching. I started it off by beating Team Panama, and that was the former Yankee. I'm trying to think of his name. I'm sorry, but anyway.
Ralph Terry. Whitey Ford.
We ended up where we beat Panama, and then Howie Nunn beat San Juan, and then
Howie Nunn was a Red.
and then
Boston
Bob
Red?
Gibson pitched the championship game,
great.
and we had 100,000 people there, and at the stadium in Caracas, and we ended up winning, and we had shoe boxes full of money,
Yeah, like Paul. Years ago.
And anyway, it was a real thrill and a lot of fun.
Those were the days, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
What'd you do with the shoe boxes full of money?
I was going to say, how'd you get them back?
Put them under your bed?
Well, the thing is, the money wasn't worth that much.
Was it Venezuelan money?
Yeah.
Oh. Listen, I know somebody who's a junk dealer, a scrap dealer, who keeps a couple $1 million taped to the underneath of his dining room table because he doesn't trust the banks.
Yeah. Wow.
Seriously.
Can you announce his address for the folks?
Just in case he gets broken in. You think I'm kidding you? It's all taped to the underside of his dining room table. I've seen it.
Is it?
I've laid on my back and I've counted the stacks.
Wow.
Duct tape. Anyway, also tell us something. You were chairman and CEO of Major League Alumni Association, and you did a good thing for them.
I made a commitment. I made a commitment to myself and to the players. And more specifically, what I did was there were so many of the players who lost their pensions and who lost their health care. Back then, we had to pay 1/6. The team paid 2/6, and the league paid 3/6 of both the pension fund and also the health care. And when a player was no longer needed, the teams didn't properly advise them because to make sure that they kept current on their payments.
Insurance and whatnot, yeah.
Quite frankly, they wanted you to default, and if you did, then they didn't have to pay. So there was close to 2,100 players that lost both their pensions, and I was able to get them all reactivated in their pension program and their health care. But more specifically, I was able to, guys who retired pre-1960 did not have a pension benefit increase for 30 years. So when I took over, there were a lot of guys that were living on dog food and cat food that did not have an education, and there were so many that had a language problem, etc., and they did not have a second career and really struggled. And I was able to get their pension doubled. Wow. And then with incremental increases of 17.5% each year thereafter.
That's great. Let me ask you one technical question. Now, in your day, did you get 5 full years in? Did you get a pension? You did get 5 full years? Because that was the cutoff in those days, 5 full years.
What is it now?
Oh, it's
30 days.
It was 4.
You get something.
Wow.
So you got your 5 full. Another thing, a famous player, Ken Boyer, did exactly what you said. Didn't keep his health insurance alive, got cancer, and had to have benefits for him.
Yes.
A well-known player, well-known Cardinal.
And I established a program called BAT, Baseball Assistance Trust, in 1989. And then it's now become Baseball Assistance Team. And they are raising now millions of dollars, but it was for the players who were having a tough time.
Well, that is, something, there were 675 members to this Major League Alumni Association when Bob took over, and over 4,000 during his tenure. So that is an incredible story. They need you in Springfield, and Rahm Emanuel needs to talk to you in Chicago. But in fact, maybe we ought to send him to D.C. and talk about the pension stuff.
Bob had an idea. All Major League Baseball players couldn't retire until 67, but the game would slow down. That's what they're currently talking about, 67. Slower game, Bob.
Stop. So, listen, kids, hold those thoughts. We'll be right back in a moment with some terrific talk and maybe another tip or two on how to prosper in this tight economy from our very special guest, Bob Miller, legendary Major League Baseball player, famed Chicago philanthropist and entrepreneur. And Bob's got a ton of interesting stories to tell us about his more time in the majors, and how he got to be such a successful businessman. There's some tidbits about Yogi and Bob Hope and a whole bunch of celebrities. So stay tuned, guys and gals, because you're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show on WRMN, 1410 AM. And we'd like to thank our very special sponsors.
And that would include Dr. Claire Elias. We put a phone call, not into the bullpen, a call for Bob Miller this time, but we will later. But this time to Dr. Claire Elias to work on Bob Miller's bad wrist so he can go out there and throw. Dr. Claire, of course, a great chiropractic care lady she is, and she's right there, 2001 Larkin Avenue. Been there for 24 calendar years now. Again, Exhibit A right there. Don't even have to prop you up there. You're ready, diva. As she has perfect posture now and would be proud.
When the camera's on me.
Yeah, to represent any photo opportunity. So give Dr. Claire Elias a call at that 847-888-9486.
And a big thanks to Snob Hounds and KC Tool, weekly sponsors of ours, without whom our show would not be possible. You are listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show, and we're back on the air live, talking all kinds of jive with our very special guest
Can you
today,
ask Bob
Miller.
If I'm a player that, in that time frame that you help the players out, say I played prior to 60, what kind of pension dollars do they get now if they were a 5-year veteran, we'll say?
It's big time. I mean, obviously, there's different categories, and the current players are making more than what the former players are, made.
Sure.
But it's what the current players are doing now is very, very significant.
Huge.
Yes. Yeah. And but the one thing is that former players are, if you were in there for 10 years, you're making 48,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's
today or then.
Now.
And today, it's double that.
If I'm a superstar like Lou Brock, who retired a few years ago, would he make $500,000 in pension, or would it be incredible money? What would it be?
No, it would be less than that.
Okay.
Yeah, be less than that.
And your pension fund won't dry up either, is that right?
No, no.
You're
See,
right.
they
Go
need you
downstate.
in Springfield. Come with me on the 20.